Absolutely. Thank you. Ed, Susan, thank you. Thanks for hosting this and doing this. This is wonderful. Let me just kind of get a temperature of folks. Going to be talking about things at the local level. In particular, I mean, we're talking about government involvement, and that starts with the grassroots. So, quick show of hands. How many of you either currently or have been a precinct committee man, precinct committee woman? All right, very good. I can put those hands down. How many of you are newly elected? Like, this is your first time doing it? All right, we got several. All right, very good. So hopefully this will be good information for you. I know coming in, it can feel kind of daunting, and you're not exactly sure what to expect or how to operate. And so tonight, I hope that that you'll feel a little more competent and just feel like you kind of know what to expect and have some influence in the local party, because that's really what it's all about. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to cast a big net here. I'm going to go wide view for just a moment, and then we're going to narrow it in down to the local level. And I had some remarks here. Some of this you already know, right? I'm preaching to the choir. You know, the vision of America is that people are free. The founding documents of our nation is that ultimate power isn't given to a king. It's not given to nobility. It's not given to a group of lords or wealthy land barons or anything like that. In fact, in a sweeping reversal, when you think of history, a sweeping reversal of how things have been for most of our history, our Constitution enshrines the idea that expansive powers are not to be entrusted to the government, but to the people. People are empowered. People are entrusted with expansive powers and freedoms. This is a radical experiment. And we kind of take that for granted here in America, because that's always really, what we've ever known. We've never had anything to contrast that with. But this is abnormal when you think of the rest of history. Government, right, is instituted by the will and consent of the people to protect the expansive rights and freedoms of the people. That's the purpose of government. Government isn't to lord it over you, to tell you what to do. Government is there to protect your rights and protect your freedoms. You are endowed by your Creator with certain inalienable rights. The people, in order to have an orderly society, then, if we're going to have our rights, and those rights are going to be protected, and where we can enjoy those expansive freedoms, have instituted the rule of law. Let me put this out here, and this group will probably give the right answer. But in America, let's think of the state level. What is the highest authority in the state? What's that? Governor. Okay, governor?
No, the people.
All right, hearing a couple different things. People, governor. All right, what about the federal government? Who has the highest authority in America? Okay, we the people. Do most people think it's the president?
Yes.
Or Congress? Or perhaps the judiciary, the Supreme Court, because they seem to have the final word on things, right? I mean, those are all ideas that we're familiar with, is that those groups are the ones who have the ultimate authority. And truly, for anybody who's God-fearing, we know that God is the ultimate authority, correct? And the people are the ones entrusted with expansive powers and freedoms. But we have consented to be governed by the rule of law. The highest authority in our nation isn't a governor, it isn't a president, it isn't an edict from somebody, it isn't Congress, it isn't a legislature, it isn't a Supreme Court, it's none of those things. And I would submit to you, it's not even necessarily the people, it's the Constitution. The highest authority in our nation is the Constitution. The highest authority in the state of Wyoming is the Constitution of the state of Wyoming. Think about this, if people actually have that, ingrained in their thinking when all this COVID nonsense started going on. And we had people writing edicts and barking orders. Well, who are you? The highest authority isn't the word of a governor, folks, and it's not the president. It's the Constitution. We have chosen to be governed under the rule of law, not the rule of man. And that's very, very important for us to realize. We have to really get that. Now, governments are good. They're necessary. All right? And so I'm not anti-government. We need, if we're going to have our expansive powers and freedoms, we need government to protect those freedoms. Because there are tyrants out there. We all know that. But there's a problem. And that is governments, which are controlled by men, are like hungry, growing beasts. And that's true. Government is a beast. I mean, think about this. I'm going to kind of bring it to the Bible here for just a moment. Right? God created Adam and Eve at the very beginning to do what? To rule and reign in the earth. To rule and reign over the beasts. Right? But what happened? They were deceived by a beast. Right? And then in the very next chapter, chapter 4, what happens? God, you have that incident between Cain and Abel, and God tells Cain, hey, look, sin lies at the door. It's crouching at the door. Its desire is to have you, but you can rule over it, right? You get this picture of another beast. And then what happens after that? Well, somewhere along the line, Cain gave in to the beast, and he started acting like a beast, killing his brother. Now think about this. This is the reason we go forward even further to the book of Daniel, right? Daniel, in Daniel chapter 7, he has this dream. And he dreams of 4 what? Beasts. And what are those beasts? Those beasts are world empires. Every single one of them. Daniel was living in Babylon at that time. Babylon was the great world empire. It was headed by a guy named Nebuchadnezzar. And I can't think of like chapter 4 or something like that. Nebuchadnezzar, in his pride, thinking he's so great and he's so mighty, because he is the government, what happens? He becomes like a beast. It's not coincidence, folks. Think about the book of Revelation, chapter 13. Babylon, Mystery Babylon is a what? It's a beast. Governments are beasts. They grow. They're hungry. That's what we're up against. Governments are necessary, but in a fallen world, they become like beasts. So, how do we guard against that? Well, the framers of the Constitution knew that government had to be controlled, so they enumerated its powers. We look at the Constitution, there's enumerated powers. You're only allowed to do X, Y, and Z. That's how they set it up, so that the people would have the expansive freedoms and powers that they were supposed to have. The other thing they decided to do was to do a separation of powers. We're all familiar with that. 3 branches of government. There's the Congress or the legislature, there's the executive branch, and there's the judiciary. But it's not just broken up in that way, it's broken up into levels. In other words, our framers knew that power likes to be concentrated in one area. And so they broke up that power even into different levels. The federal level, the state level, and the local level. Now, which level out of those 3, the local, state, and federal, which is supposed to be the strongest? Which is supposed to be the most influential in your life?
Local.
The local. Well, what is it today? It's federal. What's happened? A concentration of power. Federal government is growing like a beast. And what is, and it might even be true of this group right here, what are people most interested in? The local government? Probably not. I don't know a lot what the city government is doing or the county government. I mean, praise the Lord, we do have people, that are interested in the library and the things that are happening here. But let's face it, folks, most people think that the country's going to be fixed if we get the right person in Congress. It's a beast, folks. And that beast isn't going to give its meal back. It's going to keep eating and growing and growing and growing. You have to starve the beast, and you have to reorient things, which brings it down to the grassroots. This is where I'm going with this, is the most powerful, what should be the most powerful group of people, the most influential group of people is at the grassroots local level. And that starts with our party politics. That starts with our local GOP. Now, we have chosen to use this party system. It's all set up that way. I'm not going to go into the details of why that is, but that's what we have. And we have chosen, in order to represent the will of the people, every single neighborhood in this county. They're broken up in different precincts. Some precincts have a few neighborhoods or one neighborhood or whatever it is, but all of those precincts have people where you get to vote for your neighbors, for people who you think will represent your interest, to try to be a voice of reason, to express your values, to initiate change in order to influence government, essentially is what that is. And so that's what a precinct committeeman and a committeeman is. You are elected by your neighbors in order to be that voice. You've been entrusted with a huge responsibility. And we want to talk about what some of those responsibilities are. Now, there's some terms. When I first got into party politics, I didn't know what some of these terms were. I heard of precinct committeeman and committeewoman because that's what I signed up for, to put my name on the ballot for something like that. But when all of those people, those precinct committeemen and committeewomen get together, there's a term for that, and that is called the Central Committee. You hear that name? The County Central Committee. Well, what's the committee? Well, if you're a precinct committee man or woman, you are the committee. When we all get together at a county party, that is the Central Committee. The Executive Committee is something similar. It's the elected people like the chairman, vice chairman, those people that constitute that separate group. And so you'll hear some of those terms. But it all starts at the local level, the grassroots. What does the party do? It determines what do the grassroots do? What is your role as an elected precinct committee man or committee woman? Well, it starts with what the party stands for. You get to determine what the party stands for, the values that we hold dear, the issues that we feel are important, the laws and policies that we think should be enacted to maintain our community values, to protect people and their God-given rights. All of that starts at the local level with those committee men and committee women. The timeless truths that we believe, and that we believe that every Republican who is like-minded should hold on to. We call that the platform. And I have the platform playing some around here, but we talk about the right to life, the right to bear arms. We talk about the right to private property. Those are timeless truths that we believe Republicans should hold on to. And I know people throw it around. You have to agree with the entire thing, or 80% or whatever. And those are, kind of intra-party, arguing politic kind of stuff. But the point is that we're like-minded on those things. That's important. The party determines what those values are. It doesn't come from the national committee, folks. It doesn't come from Washington. It doesn't come from the states. It starts at the local level. The local people band together and say, this is what we hold dear. This is what we value. And it moves then to the top. And you'll see that here in just a moment. There are various issues. Now, we believe in the timeless truths, but, throughout the year, other things happen that maybe those timeless truths don't cover. Right? So, for instance, when you have an inept president who allows a Chinese spy balloon to go across the continental U.S. and doesn't do anything about it, and perhaps you think, well, you know what? We want to voice our displeasure. And so we get together and we write a resolution. Whereas our president is the commander-in-chief, and whereas he has a right and responsibility to protect the United States, and whereas he has failed in his duty to do so, we the people resolve that Congress should impeach the man, or whatever the case may be. Where does that happen? That happens at the local level, folks. That doesn't happen first at the state. It happens here. It happens in Campbell County. That's your job. You get to be the voice of reason to say, hey, wait a sec, what's going on out there? It's just absolutely nuts. Why are we giving billions of dollars to Ukraine to defend their borders when our borders are left wide open? I think I'm going to write a resolution about that. And that's what it's about. So those various issues, the party has a voice in that. Not only that, but the party is influential in fundraising and working to get Republicans elected. People just aren't elected out of the blue. It takes influence. It takes dollars. It takes hard work. It takes volunteers knocking on doors. It takes people handing out flyers. It takes people getting involved. We have to get involved. And that's what the local level is for. By the way, there's something interesting to think about for those of you on the Central Committee now. And, when we think about our own people, think about it. The Democrats don't really have a party, right? They tried to join the Republican Party as rhinos. They're frontier Republicans. That's how it works, right? And we usually fundraise pretty well and have lots of money left over. What are we going to do with it all? You know what some counties have done, like Crook County? They support Republicans along their values in other counties. You know, Northeast Wyoming is represented not just by Campbell County, folks. What if Campbell County decided, you know what? We're going to go ahead and campaign for someone, we're going to give money to someone like Chip Nyman over in Cook County.
Woohoo.
So it's one of those things that the local party has a right, a responsibility, a duty, at least to look into if they want to do something like that. Summed up, the Campbell County GOP, aka also known as the Central Committee or the County Party, or whatever you want to call it, is responsible for being the voices of our neighbors in our community. You're the voices. This is where it begins. Determining what our party platform is, the timeless truths. Why is the Republican Party, why is it the way that it is? Why is it that they believe these things? Because it starts at the local level, and you get to have an influence in that. It determines where the party goes and what it stands for. It makes known where we stand on issues that are important to us with those resolutions. It's responsible for filling vacancies when Republican office holders resign. So for instance, if we have a Republican county commissioner who resigns, guess who gets to put names forward to fill that seat? The local party does. How do we do that? That's why we need to be involved and know what we're doing. It has a responsibility to hold elected officials accountable, using our voices to influence legislation, change laws, take action, civilly protest injustices, lobby for action that are in line with our values, and elect Republicans who share our values. All of that starts at the local level. It has a responsibility for fundraising and dispersing those funds, for volunteering and being the best community members in this county. There should be Republicans. The people are the government. That's how it works in America. We're a government of, by, and for the people. You are the government. And it takes us getting involved. And so that's where it starts. That's what the local GOP is all about. The Campbell County GOP meets when it has business to attend to. So there's a schedule. Jana's going to come up here in just a moment, and she's going to kind of tell you more about that. And I just want to kind of give you a brief overview. Now resolutions can be brought up anytime, when there's a scheduled GOP meeting. Something to think about. Resolutions can be passed then. If they pass our county, they can be passed up then to our state committee man and state committee woman. So how does this thing work anyway? Well, our local GOP, they get to decide who the state committee man and state committee woman is, because the state has another level, right? You have the local GOP, you have the state GOP. A national committee man and a national committee woman who does what? They go to the national conference. And you know what? Oh, we've got a resolution from Wyoming that passed at the local level, it passed at the state level, and now we're bringing it to the federal level. And we want the rest of the states to consider this thing right here and make a stand right here and right now. This is what we feel, this is what we want, this is what we resolve. That's how it works, folks. But where did it all begin? At the local level. At the local level. There's other things like platforms, bylaws, all that kind of stuff, but that's not done throughout necessarily these meetings. It's done later on. Talk about that, the state convention, county caucuses, things of that sort. Let me pass this over to Janet here, and Janet, just kind of let us know the meetings, what we can expect for precinct committee men, committee women over the next 2 years, and kind of get a better feel of what those responsibilities are.
Well, did you get all of that? Yeah. That was excellent, Scott. I'm going to back Scott up a little bit to where he was talking about resolutions. The Campbell County GOP does resolutions. We need a new exec on the local level, and there's a possibility right here. But and when the current exec took over, they shut down resolutions by executive order. Myself, Vicki, and Barb, we battled with them a couple months, but I do have the whole statement at home that they produced that Campbell County will not be doing any resolutions. So we need to get some new exec on there to
what
do
does exec mean?
Okay, what's exec mean? Exec is your chairman, your vice chair, your secretary, treasurer, state committee woman, state committee man. Did I get them all? I think I got them. Okay, that's your exec that makes the decisions of how the local party is going to operate. And right now, It is locked down by our exec. There's no resolutions coming out of our exec, and I can dig up a statement from our chair. So we need to work on a new exec. Regular meetings, there again, that needs to be fixed with the new exec because they determined there was only going to be, I think, four meetings per year, and I think we've had 6 meetings in the last 2 years. So elections are coming up January 6th. Ben, go ahead.
What would keep us from just doing resolutions even though they say we're not going to?
Well, I need enough people to get it going.
Okay.
We need a majority to overcome that. Yeah, we didn't have it. We didn't have the majority to counter that.
That's why the new chair was put in, because we didn't have.
Yeah, we need to go to elections, March 6th. You guys need to show up. If you're not there, get yourself a proxy. A proxy is simply, if I'm not there, I would say they'll send one out, and it's on the county website too. But it simply says, for instance, I, Janet Mader, Precinct Committee Woman, 8-1, designate Justin Mader as my proxy for this particular meeting, okay? You just need to write that out. They do have a form, but it should also, you never know what those guys are going to do, but it also is a written form is ready to go. Chuck?
Your proxy has to be in your precinct.
Correct. The proxy has to be a registered Republican in the same precinct you are, and you can carry 2 proxies. So my precinct only has 2 precinct people, one man, one woman. Some of you have 3 or 4, so figure out who's there, and we need people showing up, and that's a sore point with me because people get elected to do something, say they're going to do something, and they don't show up. We need you showing up. We need you finding your proxies. And if you're having troubles with your precinct and who your proxy is, we can help. I can help, Patty can help, Scott can help. We'll figure that out for you, where your precinct is and your people.
One of the important things too is over this last year at the state convention, the state bylaws our county bylaws were changed. It essentially said in order to have a quorum, in order to even conduct a meeting, a majority of members elected need to be present at the meeting. So if we're at 49% of the members, we don't have a meeting. And maybe there's some important business that needs to go on. It's important for people to fulfill their responsibility and to show up or find a proxy.
Okay, excellent. Regular meetings, show up, we did that. Filling vacancies, Scott covered that. County commissioners, or even I've been there on the Central Committee long enough. There's, if a legislator moves or a legislator passes away or decides to resign, all of those come through if they are elected as a Republican and they vacate that seat, it comes back to the precinct people to elect, to choose 3 candidates to go to the county commissioners, and the county commissioners will choose one of those to represent that seat. So it's very important to keep those filled or send your proxy. I put together, there's only 30 of these, so you need to share them. Yeah.
Can I get a couple of people to help out? I actually have some other things too. It's Robert's Rules of Order. And I have about 25 of these, so if you're a couple, if you can take one there, sorry. If you're a precinct committee man or committee woman in particular, make sure you take this Robert's Rules of Order, okay?
Okay, on the one they're passing out, it's basically the odd-numbered years and the even-numbered years. We're in an odd-numbered year, and that's how state statutes and bylaws work. So the elected precinct people were official as the first Monday in January. And then the organizational meeting was the one we had the end of January, where you just meet, and there's not a lot going on there, but those that were elected saw that. I inserted the legislative regular session in there, so right now, we've already covered that with Patty and Ben, and then I interrupted them. Get on that legislative website and keep track of what they're doing. It's crucial right now because as they've crossed over, they're going to pass or fail. The House just engrossed like 12 of them this afternoon, so they're ready to go. March is when we elect officers. That's by state statute and bylaws. Fundraiser in the mid-year, odd year. There was a lot of money raised and a lot of money spent, so Central Committee people, it's going to have to be done to get up and get going again. March to December, Ben did talk about that, and they're doing their interim topics right now. It comes through the legislature, and they got this cool little thing on the website where you can ask for an interim topic. It's online, and you need to contact your legislator to sign on with you. Even numbered years, I did discover, there's plenty of these. This one. Right here, Steve. Everybody get this? Okay. So on the even numbered years, which is coming up, I did find the budget session for the next coming year. And February, March is your precinct caucuses. Precinct caucuses are, each caucus will meet and do their resolutions.
What is a caucus?
Okay, what's a caucus? Thank you for keeping me on track. So a caucus is when every registered Republican will meet in your caucus and decide on resolutions. Your chairman of your caucus is your elected committee man and committee woman. And if they don't show up, then you can elect one. I think Laura's done that, right? So that's where it starts, and that's where you write your the original resolutions. And then they have to pass out a caucus. There's a whole lot of date, time frame in there you have to watch. They will move to the county convention. The precinct caucuses also elect the people that will be the delegates to the county election. So my precinct only gets 2. One time I didn't get any, just because of the way the numbers work. But the exec committee will determine the number of delegates that go to the county caucus. So that's why we need a good exec too, so we can keep that rolling. So then the county convention is where everyone that's been elected out of the caucus is a voting member, plus your already elected precinct committee people. So we have 144 precinct committee men right now, and women. I think there's 2 or 4 vacancies in there. But that like doubles, so you can see the number of people. It's high right now because there was the previous election, the last one when Cheney was elected, is where your numbers are established. They kind of leapfrog along. So this one's high numbers. So we have lots of opportunity there. Then it's going to drop. It just fluxes with that particular election. So right now we're high. Yep.
Just to kind of elaborate on this more, the caucuses and the county convention and the state convention, they only happen once every 2 years. And it kind of cascades. It starts with the county caucus, moves to the county convention, and then moves to the state convention. So you're working that bottom-up thing again. And the way that it works is the precinct committee men and committee women, the central committee, it meets throughout those 2 years, right? But let's say you're not on the central committee. Maybe you want to be, but you didn't make it or whatever. And you don't like the person even that's in your spot representing you. The county caucus is your opportunity to get you and your neighbors to come to the caucus and say, you know what? We're going to write our own resolutions. We're going to do our own platforms. We're going to do our own bylaw amendments or changes or whatever it is, and we're going to put our names down. We're going to vote for ourselves or whatever it is to go to the county convention. The caucus is where those initial documents take form and where delegates are chosen to go to the county convention. The county convention does not just consist of the central committee. It's more, like Janet was saying, it's a lot more. It's your opportunity to be a voice of reason and to say, you know what, I want to have a say-so in things. And then at that county convention, those bylaws and resolutions and platforms are all voted on, and if they succeed, it goes then to the state level. That county convention is also going to vote on a slate of delegates. And maybe you want to go and be a part of that state convention. You're like, you know what, I like this. I like being involved, and I'm pretty good at this. So I'm going to, nominate myself, or someone's going to nominate me, and I'm going to be one of those people that goes to the state convention. And maybe you're elected, you're selected, so you go to the state convention, you do the whole process over again. And maybe you're real good, and you think, you know what, I want to go to the national level. The state party votes for one national committeeman and one national committee woman. I mean, it's a tough competition. Patty has ran for that post before.
You have to step though. At the state convention, at the state convention, you also nominate candidates to go to the national convention, because there's been like 26 plus those 3.
Yeah, thank you. The state convention is important too, because you're voting not only on some of those things, but if it's a presidential election year, you're voting on electors, electoral college.
There you go.
That's important. Who gets to decide who Wyoming's electoral college is? State Republican Party at that state convention, which you can be a part of. See how it all starts local. You have to be involved. And maybe, and I don't want to go there. Anyway, you understand. All right, sorry, Jenny.
Well, for everything Scott's talking about, we got to pull a majority. We don't have a majority right now, so we've got to pull a majority. So the majority on our county central committee is real marginal right now. We don't quite have it. We have some middle roaders that I think will be good for us, but we don't necessarily have that majority we need.
Majority of what?
Of votes on the
Conservatives versus
right.
the left.
Us folks.
Yeah.
Us folks. If you want to do what Scott's talking about, we need to bring that majority up. So also, let's go to state convention. So the party is run from, the rules come from the top. So in the year you have a presidential election, which is coming up 24, right? So that presidential election year, that they determine when there's a whole bunch of rules to set the state convention date. And then the county convention date is backed off of that, and then the caucuses are backed off of that. So we can't tell you right now when that state convention is, because that first date comes out of the RNC, and then you have to back up. So Scott brought up the presidential electors. There's 3, and that's because we have 2 senators and 1 congresswoman. And if you go back to the 2020 election, that was a presidential election year. That's when that state convention was held here in town. And we had to split track that. And one of the reasons we had to split track that is we had a particular hard deadline on when we had to elect those 3 state electors. We couldn't get by that, no matter what all those mandates and rules were and all the infighting. We had to have that one particular day, I can't remember which of those 2 tracks we were on, we had to meet that hard deadline from the RNC to qualify our electors for our presidential election. And folks, that's crucial. So you don't want Wyoming not having its 3 presidential electors. There's a hard deadline on that. No matter how you think about that, that's just the way it is. Okay, Scott, what else do we have?
I think that covers it. Let me put it. Is there any questions on any of that? I mean, might have just hit with a fire hose there, but
Well, we'd
Go ahead.
like to know who is going to apply for different positions.
right. I know, sir. There's some names floating around. I am going to either someone's going to nominate me or I'm going to nominate myself for chairman.
Yay.
So, and I hope I get it, because all the stuff that I'm talking about here, I want to see our county party be very robust. I want to see us make our voices known. I want to put Campbell County on the map, so to speak. And this is what Northeast Wyoming has to say. We're one of the most conservative counties in the state. Now, Crook County would say they're the most conservative
In the country, sir, in the country.
in the country.
That's why I'm here.
Well, we have some weight to throw around, and we ought to throw it around. So anyway,
Committee is liberal.
yeah. So I don't know if you're interested. So there's some state bylaw changes, which essentially say that the secretary and the treasurer and the vice chairman and the chairman, all of them have to be voted on by the central committee. So precinct committee men and committee women, it's your job to vote for those people. And oh, by the way, one of the changes is, and here's the other thing to keep in mind. Let's say you're not a precinct committee man or woman, but you're a registered Republican within the county. You can run for any of those chairs, or any of those offices, those positions. Okay, so if you want to be the secretary, or you want to be the treasurer, let's say you're good at finances or whatever, you want to be the treasurer, you can run for that, and put your name forward or whatever. And if you succeed in getting that, even if you're not an elected precinct committee man or committee woman, you actually get a vote. That's one of the changes to our state bylaws. You are now a voting member by virtue of your office as elected treasurer, or whatever the case may be. Those are things to think about. So you can see how in some of the inter-party politics, when we're talking about those small margins, right? You elect a strong executive committee, you might have just moved it over to the majority when it comes to other matters as well. So there's some strategy that goes with some of this.
Just an example of this is in the past, the secretary and treasurer were not elected, yet they got a vote on the executive committee, and the executive committee voted to give Ogden Driscoll $5,000 without coming to the committee. And those two people who were not elected got to vote on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Any other questions here?
But
Okay.
one thing that just happened in one of the other counties in their central committee is they voted to censure Cynthia Lummis, as well as, last year, Cheney.
Okay.
And we can do that too, as a central.
Correct.
committee.
Oh, yeah.
So I was on committee when, on state committee when Liz Cheney was censured. And that did come out of another county, and it just grew. And then it came through the state, and I'm representing the people because I'm a state committee woman. And I ran into a few of my precinct people in town, and I just kind of carefully quizzed them, and I was like, wow, she really did cook her goose. I mean, I have my opinion on it, but it's wise to check, the people you're representing. And that, Scott said, it goes to the national level. That Cheney one went to the national level once Wyoming did what it did. So, and the Lummis one was actually, I think, I read the news today, it wasn't a censure, it was a letter of condemnation, right?
Yes.
Right,
Letter of
which is a little bit different than a censure. Get your county bylaws out. They're online. Get your state bylaws out. We need some conservative people when we're coming through caucus and county convention, the bylaws need straightened out, okay? So that's something you need to look at. The state platform is on the state party and state party website. Get that out and read it so you understand that platform. I was on my first year on state exec was when that platform was started, and that was those timeless principles, and that platform stayed the same until this state convention, and there's just a few little changes on it to help it, like the marriage thing, I can't remember. So I ran the computer, whatever you call that, the recorder. I couldn't voice my opinion, but I kept things going on the screen as they were debating that in a group like this in that committee, platforms committee, and that's been established, and it is so timeless, and it was established so well that those committee people wouldn't let that flex. I mean, timeless truths are timeless truths. So that's what we also need with our platform people, because the way things are going, they want to get in there and mess with it, So we need a group of people that just maintain that platform. It grew to like a 8.5 by 14 page instead of an 8 by 11 because I tried it. But anyway, there's just those little things to go where we need to go.
Let me just kind of wrap this up because I think we're over time, aren't we? Yeah. And just say that the local GOP, it's the organized effort to effectuate change. as a Republican, as people who have Republican values. And so it's incredibly important. If you're elected to that position, kudos to you. Take that responsibility very seriously. Show up to the meetings. Influence your other precinct members and whatnot. And let's effectuate some change for our county and for our state and hopefully the national level as well. The last thing that I'll say, and we didn't go over this, but this is a simple Robert's Rules of Orders. I'm not going to elaborate on this because we are out of time. But I want you to notice that on the back here, there are some common motions that people make. And I think, Lord willing, if I am elected the chairman, then I'll probably do some creative things, whether we actually hold a meeting, maybe do some mock stuff to go through Robert's Rules of Orders for virtue of both new members and old members. What's that?
Great.
Well, yep. And if not, then who knows? Maybe I'll even do a video or something like that. But I want you all to feel comfortable and competent in using the rules, because this is important. Because it can be a make or break thing. And I could tell you a story, just even a short one right now. Laramie County, in their last county convention, when they were electing delegates to the state convention, there was a guy who essentially. That whole thing unraveled, and it unraveled in particular because one guy who was new didn't do something called a point of order. He could have just said a point of order. Get the whole thing clarified. Stop. Let's follow the rules. They weren't following the rules the way that they were supposed to. But he didn't. He just kind of raised the point of inquiry. Are we supposed to be doing it this way? And just kind of left it. No, it's a point of order. Like, stop. We're not doing it the right way. That's a motion. And so it's important to be familiar with these motions because this parliamentary procedure, people who are gifted and skilled at using this are the ones who get things done. And sometimes those people are the people on the other side that you don't want to be getting things done. So you need to know how to go toe to toe and use parliamentary procedure to combat against that. So there's just some things to think about.
Are you ready to close?
Yeah.
Okay. So, is this your Bible in?
What time is the meeting?
What time is what meeting?
March the 6th.
Is it
I
6?
forgot.
What time and where?
Is that the library?
It's at the library Wyoming room, and I think it's the 6th that I forgot.
March 6th and 6
I know, 6 o'clock, I think, yeah, March 6th. Okay, Ed's got this Bible open. I'm going to take Psalms 34:19. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Psalms 35:1. Contend, O Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Take hold of buckler and shield and rise up for my help. Anyway, there's more to that if you want to read Psalms 35, because we're at the end.
Thank you again, Susan, for